The final straw was I heard a sound. I went into younger son's room to check, thinking he had forgotten how to breathe again, and saw older son hitting him and screaming, "You're why I don't have a mother. You're why I don't have a father. You're why I can't have friends over. You're why I can't be in sports. I didn't ask for you, and I hope you die." Instead of being horrified, I watched. And younger son just did not react. No signs of pain or fear or upset. No reaction at all. He breathes, but he is not alive. He doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know who older son is. He has no sense of self, life experience, or awareness of his surroundings. He doesn't need to be in my home. He doesn't know or care where he is. He is genetically my son, but he is not family. My previously abused, brain-damaged cat who can't walk straight has more personality and is far more lovable than my child. In fact, I was looking forward to raising a Downs baby, even one with severe impairments for that reason. With disability can come gifts. This boy is not a gift. He is a genetic mistake. I probably should have miscarried and would have definitely terminated if I'd known he would be like this. And the flip side is, if he has awareness, he's miserable, and there is nothing I can do. If he has likes and dislikes, no one knows what they are. If he is in pain, he can't tell anyone. If he wants anything, he can't communicate. He's had every imaginable therapy. Nothing has made a difference. And so he's leaving our home on the 29th. I feel excited and relieved and then guilty because I know we'll be happier with him gone. He's already taken my husband and my son's father. He was working so much OT to pay for the cucumber's care. For the experimental therapies insurance wouldn't cover, because this one was going to be the breakthrough. He was tired and defeated and disappointed. He sought counseling as well, but I don't think he could ever say the words, "I don't want my son in my home either." He's ruined my older son. I was so wrapped up on the younger, I never realized how ignored and damaged he was. He lost his father too. I didn't just lose my husband. He is my priority now, and this malignant lump can be someone else's problem. At least they'll be paid a wage to care for him. At least they'll get a break from him when they punch out. I just want to never think of him again, and I'm not sorry. And for that, I'm sorry.
I added Tabasco to Wendy's chili and used it to get second place in a chili cook-off. Title basically says it all. This wasn't a professional organized competition. There was some BMX event with a couple hundred people, and they always have a chili cook-off. I'm not much for cooking, so Elle thought it would be funny to throw a bunch of Wendy's chili in a crock pot and see if anyone noticed. They didn't. I've been a vegetarian for roughly 12 years, so this was a long time ago.
Cop pulled me over, and I called 911 and lied to get out of going to jail. When I was 19, I was running late to work in my tiny piece of shoot economy car. And on fumes of gas, I didn't come to a complete stop on a right turn. Lights behind me, so I pull over. I know I've barely got any gas at all, and was almost to a gas station. Hence why I rolled through the stop a little, trying not to have the car die. At the time around 1995, a new digital phone had come out called Voicedine Nout Mobley. And their whole big thing was the phones were digital and not cellular. They were the first phones with caller ID, and one of the big things the salesman had said over and over was, since it was digital, the signal couldn't be triangulated or traced. Not that I cared, but it stuck in my mind. Well, as I give the cop my license, registration, and insurance card, I got an idea. I knew if I was late to work, I was going to lose my job. They were super strict there. So I get an idea, and right after I hand the papers to the cop, and he's walking back to his cruiser, I called 911 and tell the operator I just saw a guy with what looked like a shotgun walk into a 7-Eleven that was about 2 blocks away. I confirmed the address, then I hung up. About 30 seconds later, the cops come sprinting to my car and hands me all my stuff, and Rush says, "Come to a complete stop next time," then peels off to the direction of the store. Pushed my car to the gas station that'd almost made it to, and felt pretty pleased with my ingenuity. I was an idiot, and I confess, I used to bully my disabled brother for years. I know this will get a lot of hate, and yes, I deserve it. I am not looking for any validation or forgiveness. I know I am a piece of human trash. I just need to get this out. I have a brother who is 2 years older than me. He has suffered from a condition since birth that forces him to be in a wheelchair anytime he is out of bed. He cannot use his arms that well either. We used to have a great relationship until I turned 11, and I really started resenting the amount of attention he took from my parents, and how much stress he put them under. I had to constantly help him, change him, feed him. I hated it. There was a few years in his life when he's so mean to my parents, and it really made me resent him more. I realize now that I had no right to judge him, and I will never know how difficult life is for him. I stopped hanging out with him and made more friends at school. I would tell my family all the fun I was having at school during dinner to make him feel bad. I started barely talking to him or acknowledge his presence. He would get frustrated to the point of tears to get my attention. It started escalating 2 years ago when I would purposely turn off the Wi-Fi and unplug the TV every time we had to leave the house, so my brother could do nothing but sit in his wheelchair. I would purposely delete his favorite saved shows on the DVR. I would make fun of his speech, push things just out of his reach. I would act disgusted when I had to change or bathe him. It always made him feel bad, and he would apologize. I made my own brother apologize for taking a dump. What the fuck is wrong with me? But my fucking saint of a brother never told my parents, and he never let me have it. 3 weeks ago, he was trying to talk to me non-stop, and I was just ignoring him. I got annoyed and wheeled him against his wishes to the backyard and placed him under an umbrella and went back inside. I fell asleep and realized I left him out there for 3 hours. When I went to bring him back inside, he was in tears and wouldn't look at me. He was humiliated. I have always felt guilty about how I treated my brother all these years, but my anger towards him overpowered it. But seeing that look on his face affected me in a way that was different from before. I stopped all the bullying after that day. I couldn't even look him in the face, I was so ashamed. Last Sunday my brother told me he was glad I was his brother and friend. I couldn't even respond. I went to my room and cried. I'm fucking crying again typing this all out. When did I become an evil trash human being? Fuck, I'm 17 and he's 19 now. I know there is nothing I can do to make up for the past 6 years. My brother will be returning with my mom from a specialist appointment tonight. I'm going to apologize to him and beg for his forgiveness tonight. I want to start being a fucking decent brother to him again. I am so ashamed of myself. Update. A lot of people were asking for an update, so here it is. I wrote up a long-ass apology letter that I wanted to read to my brother. I waited until he got home and got into bed for the night. I knocked on his door and he was so fucking excited that it was me. I couldn't even get through the first few words. I started crying after saying, I wanted to say, I'm really sorry, and just couldn't get through it. I just got into bed with him and laid down next to him. He hugged me really tight and said, I missed you, buddy. I fucking lost it. I never cried that bad before. He just hugged me for a long time until I calmed down. We didn't talk much. He started crying for a bit too. It was the first time in a long time we just hugged. After half an hour I got up and gave him a kiss, and he told me he was so happy. Why didn't I do this earlier? Fuck. I thought I could try apologizing properly again tomorrow. I left him the note to read anyway. I am feeling very hopeful right now, and a lot of pressure in my heart is gone. I swear to God, and on my own life, I will never treat my brother so badly again. I have been working part-time for the past year, and I was saving some money, so my brother and my mom could go on a trip to a place he really wanted to go to. But I think I will take my brother myself instead when I turn 18. I also realized that I need to have a relationship with my brother, where I am not just taking care of him. It needs to be like a normal brother relationship. Like go in for movies and stuff. It's going to take some time for me to fix the mess I created though. I'm just lucky my brother is amazing. I received a lot of messages. I appreciate everyone for their input, and I did read them all even if I didn't reply. Thanks everyone. I've stolen hundreds of dollars worth of water just by saying 5 words. My college has a food court in one of the main buildings. Chick-fil-A, sandwich place, salad bar, etc. You get your food and pay at the exit. Every single time I've eaten lunch there since I was a freshman. I grab a bottle of water with my meal, walk up to pay, and say, "I brought the water in." The employees aren't paid enough to care, and I pay enough in tuition to not feel bad about it. I thought I was a pretty good dad until I was tested. My son threw a snowball at me, and I instinctively blocked it with my daughter. The look of betrayal on her snow-covered face has haunted my... I run a fake restaurant on a delivery app. I registered a company, bought all the takeaway boxes from Amazon, signed up for a few delivery apps, made a few social media accounts and printed leaflets that I drop in mailboxes. I resell microwave meals. On some meals, I add something to make them look better, like cheese. So far, it's at around $100 a day in revenue. Nobody suspects a thing. Soon someone will come for hygiene inspection. But I'll pass that check without any problems. It's not illegal to operate out of your own kitchen. Should I feel bad? I feel kind of proud to be fair and free as a bird from the 9 to 5 life. Edit. Please stop commenting on the legality of this. I'm doing everything by the law. I'm in the UK, so yes, I can work out of a non-commercial kitchen. Yes, I am registered and will pay taxes in Jan. Yes, I have my certificates, and yes, I have insurance. Though there is something I might need to add to the policy, doing that next week. This shouldn't be your concern. I'm legal. This is a confession sub, not legal advice. Not breaking any laws. Just ruining my karma Earl for selling people heated up food from a microwave at home. My little cousin cracked my iPhone XS Max screen, made my aunt pay $329, knowing I have Apple Care, and it only cost me $29. My little cousins are the biggest poos in the world, and my aunt pretty much lets them do whatever they want without consequence. They were roughhousing and knocked my phone off the counter, shattering the screen. My closest Apple store is about 2 hours away, and it's a huge inconvenience for me to drive there, not to mention the extra gas. So instead of explaining this to her, she's the kind of person who doesn't care about things that don't affect her directly. Told her it was $329 to fix, which is true if I didn't have Apple Care. She wrote me a check for $329, and I only had to pay $29, and I pocketed the extra $300. I consider that my non-disclosed inconvenience fee.
I stole over $20,000 in a very creative way in the 90s. I worked at a fast food chain in the 90s when I was in high school. When I worked there, they were in the process of phasing out denominational gift certificates. $5, $10, and $25. The way it worked was if you spent more than half of the certificate, they gave you the cash back. So if you ordered $5.50 worth of food and gave them one of the $10 gift cards, they gave you the $4.50 back in cash. My manager was in charge of destroying all the existing certificates as we transitioned to the more traditional credit card-looking gift cards. So my manager said he shredded the certificates like he was supposed to. But one night when I was closing, I found 2 boxes of the gift cards tucked deep in the dry storage room. They were filled with the certificates that were supposed to be shredded. So I scooped them up, brought them out to the dumpster in trash bags, and threw them away. After we closed, I came back and recovered the back and brought the certificates home. I counted them. There were $1,025, $1,010, and $505 certificates. None of them had expiration dates. Total haul was $40,000 in fast food certificates. My manager never said a word. He couldn't. He had reported them destroyed weeks earlier. Over the next 3 years, my girlfriend and I toured every location in our state, and the next for states ordering food and getting the change. We never kept track on a spreadsheet or anything, but we got good at knowing what menu items were just about half. After the first year, we started saving the change in a shoebox and let it build up. I bought my first car for $7,800 cash from the change. And for some reason, a kitty cone was $1.05. If you gave them a $5 cert, they gave you $3.95 back. We threw away a lot of kitty cones. Edit. Holy crap, this blew up. Here are the answers to some of the frequently asked questions. Number 1, we could hit 10 to 12 stores in a day if we drove around for 5 to 6 hours. Both of us would use a gift cert. It was not that labor intensive. Number 2, the only cameras in the store were at the cash registers and takeout window. Number 3, the manager has no clue who took them, or at least never treated my differently. Number 4, each gift certificate had a generic clue on them. For example, all the $25 were PLU number 756. Number 5, when we stopped selling the certificates, we were told to keep honoring them because they were pre-paid. They were not coupons. Number 6, one can only eat so many ice cream cones.
I ended an elderly man in front of his wife and basically his entire family. Forgive me for any misspellings or format. I'm trying to do this on my phone. I haven't talked about this to anyone, even though it's been years, even my closest of friends, minus the ones that were there. One night, when I was in college, I was driving to get some liquor for a party my fraternity was supposed to throw the following night. I was taking a street I was very familiar with to get back to my house. It was dark, but the street was lit with street lamps. I remember that I looked at my radio for a second, just a second, not very long at all. But when I looked back up to the road, there was a man crossing. I didn't have any time to react. By the time I saw him, he had already hit the hood of my car and bounced off the side. I remember screaming and hitting the brakes and the wash of horror of what had just happened. I'll admit, I had thought about speeding away, but I pulled over to the side and ran out of my car to check on this guy. I sat on the curb across from the family and listened to their crying in agony while we waited for the paramedics to arrive. I sat there and sobbed while two paramedics took him away in an ambulance. I don't believe I've ever cried so hard and for so long. The worst part about all of it, and what still kills me today, was that his wife came over to me while I was distraught on that curb, sat next to me, placed her hand on my shoulder, and said I was married to him for almost 50 years. We had a good life. Then she hugged me and said that she forgave me. After everything was said and done, it was ruled that it was an accident. I wasn't charged with anything, and I had one of my friends pick me up from the police station. I went down a dark path the years after that. I drank heavily, dropped out of college in my senior year, and had to move back in with my mother and father because I couldn't hold on to a job. Even tried to myself with pills. It was a hard road to recovery, which I feel I'm not fully recovered from, nor do I feel I ever will be the same. But eventually, I got my life back in order, joined up with the Navy and saw a bit of the world, and now I'm on track to go back to college and hopefully finish what I started there. It took almost a decade, but I finally start to feel almost whole again. I'm back to hanging with my friends and actually going out. So maybe there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Wow, you guys are awesome. Thanks for the support and feedback. I've never really posted anything on Reddit before because people can be assholes, but all these kind words are moving. Thank you, and big thanks to whoever reformatted my post. I'm shit at this, so thanks. I slept with my daughter's ex-boyfriend, he got me pregnant, and I had an abortion. They got back together and got married. This was back in, let me think, maybe 1997? I was 38 and my daughter was 18 and she was dating Harry, who was 24. I was an alcoholic and dabbled in the illegal snow. I was not a good person, let alone mother. Not like I was abusive to my daughter or anything, but I was generally inattentive and cared more about my alcohol and substance than her, especially in her teen years. I am 14 years sober now. I disapproved of my daughter dating Harry, but I never told her why. He would flirt with me constantly, and the age difference also creeped me out. Also, he was an alcoholic and user, just like me. She broke up with him over his alcoholism. Soon after she moved away, not too far, but regardless, she didn't live with me anymore. Harry kept calling me and asking if we wanted to get drinks. I turned him down. But then one day he said he had a bunch of snow, and I couldn't resist. He came over, we did the class of substance, and we ended up cuddling. He was a very good-looking guy. He looked a lot like that ridiculous 80s Justin Bieber picture that was on the front page today. That is actually what made me think about him. For the next few months, maybe like 3 to 4 months, he would sometimes come over and we would cuddle and do substance and get drunk together. Any substance addict knows what that is like to have a substance addict buddy in that way. Then I got pregnant. I knew it was by him. I had sex without a condom a few times stupidly. I never told him I was pregnant, and I went and got the abortion and kept it a secret. Anyways, I stopped seeing him after that. It was too weird. I also got sober for months before relapsing. Fast forward 2 years and my daughter contacts me and tells me that she got back with Harry and that he is fully sober. I was mortified, honestly. He was gonna tell her that we slept together and she is going to hate me for life. They came over one day and said hi, and when my daughter was gone, Harry told me that there is no reason to tell her about what happened. I agreed. It's been 16 years of marriage on their part. They have a kid together. Harry got cancer, then beat it. I got sober. That's basically it. I don't see them very often. They live in Texas and I live on the East Coast. But whenever I do, there is always that tension between me and Harry. It's literally the first thing that comes to either of our minds. I can just tell. Not like tension, like why did we have to do that? What is wrong with us? Kind of tension. I think about this often. Especially when I see my grandson. I always think that could have been my son if things had gone differently. But wow, what a disaster that would have been if I decided to keep that child. Found out my late best friend was in love with my wife. I'm writing this as a confession because I don't know where else to speak about this. And I don't want my kids finding this out on my main account. My friend passed a few months back due to heart problems. He was taking care of himself, so it was a shock to everyone. Especially his wife, who was with him at their house when he passed. Due to this, she decided to move somewhere else. And because she and her daughter were still distraught, she asked me to pack up his stuff. He had some boxes in his basement, and after a while I started feeling nostalgic, and decided to look into them. I found pictures of us from when we were kids all the way to before we got married. That was enough to make me feel bad, and I just got back to taping them up. But one of the boxes seemed to be in much better condition, so I decided to check it in case it was something important. To my surprise, I found out pictures of him and my wife from when we used to hang out together, as well as more recent pictures from family reunions. The most recent being from my wife's birthday party. Alongside the pictures there were letters that he never sent her. The first one dated 2 months before I met her. The last one was also the same date of her birthday party. There was one that stood out the most was one from after I started dating her. He wrote that his time had passed and since my happiness was as important as his own, he would watch over us. I'll keep his box safe since it isn't my secret to reveal. I cheated to get my bachelor's and my master's degree. Yeah, I cheated. I didn't write any of my papers. I didn't do any of the work myself. I stole a lot of work, took only classes anyone I knew did, and used all their work for it with minor changes. I made it through 6 years and got to degrees. I got a scholarship out of high school by cheating. I cheated during the SAT. I cheated most of my life, and I feel a little bad, but not really. Thanks to a couple real ones for holding it down for me. Wouldn't have made it this far without you. Edit. Shout out to my university and my professors. I graduated with a 3.3 GPA. Not the best, but it's alright. I also took the FE and PAY exams and did well. I gave a lactose-intolerant customer dairy on purpose. I know this sounds weird, but when I worked at Starbucks, there was a regular customer that was very difficult and rude. I was warned of this customer on my first day of training. She came in every morning and would try to rush the workers on doing their job and makes other customers feel uncomfortable. 3 months into working, she came in one morning and caused absolute hell. She was complaining about her drink while one of my co-workers was making the drink. As soon as she got it, she accidentally spills it and asks for a completely different drink. I was so fed up. She wanted a frappuccino. She went to the bathroom while we were making the new order. I switched with my coworker and made the drink. Instead of almond milk, I made the frappuccino with regular milk. The drink was ready by the time she left the bathroom. She takes the drink and takes a sip and didn't complain. 5 hours later, she calls the Starbucks from the hospital, and I was the one who picked up. She got in a car accident trying to rush to a bathroom. She said she noodled at her pants. I couldn't be any more happier that she was safe, but got her karma.
I kept the display tablets at Target instead of destroying them. I was in charge of fixtures and displays. When we changed over the display tablets, I had orders to destroy them. I took all 3 nice Samsung tablets home, wiped the demo software, and used them for myself and family. I also signed paperwork assuring that I disposed of them in the trash.
I faked my resume and now I'm in trouble. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. Since I started high school, my parents stopped checking in on my grades. And their mentality was basically, we don't care as long as you get into a good university. And they've carried on this mentality to when I got into college, and they didn't really check on my grades and gave me free rein as long as I majored in the subject they wanted and graduated on time with good grades. Well, basically what happened was that I failed my first year and had to switch my major. I didn't tell them and they didn't ask, so I thought as long as I got my shit together and not drop out, I'll be fine. One day out of the blue last semester, my dad asked me to write up a resume. I panicked and wrote up a resume, but changed the GPA and major and made up some stuff up and thought I saved myself. Well, this winter break my dad dropped it on me and told me he knows people in a big company. He gave them my resume and everything and wanted me to intern there. So I am screwed. They'll probably figure it out and let my dad know, and I'll probably get disowned or something. And best case scenario, they don't check and give me the job. And I have to live with the guilt that I got a job that I didn't deserve cause of nepotism. This is depressing as hell, and I'm typically an easygoing guy. But this whole ordeal is giving me anxiety like nothing else. I feel like an idiot for failing and lying to my family about it. And now I'm on the verge of being blown, and I thought maybe making a post here will make me feel better, but I honestly don't know. Edit. I tried to read all the comments I could. Some of you tell me to play it off and fake it till I make it. Some of you tell me to come clean. Some tell me to just disassociate from my family and do my own thing. It seems Reddit is just as conflicted as I am. I don't know what I'll do, but I just want to say thank you to all that took the time to read and comment. I appreciate all the comments, even the harsh and brutally honest ones.
I snooped on the CEO's email account and got myself unfired. A couple years out of college, I worked as an analyst at a pretty small private equity firm. The CEO was one of the biggest a-holes I've ever met. He was fairly young, in his 40s, a multi-millionaire, and the type of guy driven solely by money with zero business ethics. He'd do anything to get the upper hand in a deal regardless of who it screws over: contractors, employees. Even saw him seriously F over a longtime family friend of his without any remorse. Anyway, aside from my analyst role, as it was a really small business, only about 20 people in the office, and then a bunch of people working remote, I also happened to be one of the only semi-technology literate people in the company. So like many of my generation, I became the de facto millennial office computer guy too. Despite my lack of qualifications, I got put in charge of handling pretty much anything minor tech related. Setting up servers, fixing laptop issues, answering how do I convert this to PDF questions, even basic network security. They thought I was some sort of computer genius, but really I was just mostly winging it, Googling pretty much everything. But eventually, I got legitimately pretty good at all the tech stuff. They gave me bigger tasks like planning all of the computer systems for their own businesses and supervising installs. I didn't get paid extra for any of this, mind you. After a couple years of serious BS working there, I was pretty worn out. I wasn't progressing. I hated working for Captain Douchebag. He treated everyone like shit. I was pulling 12 to 14 plus hour days with no overtime or performance bonus. And they weren't paying me nearly what they should have. I also hated being the tech guy and was depressed as F, basically living in a cubicle. So I decided I full-on had enough of the 9 to 8 life working for a holes, and I would start my own consulting business working for myself. However, instead of quitting right away, I figured it would be smart to first build up my client base on the side while I was still getting a steady paycheck. So that's what I did. I launched my company and landed my first clients. As the workload increased, I slowly started spending more and more time working on my side business while at my office job. At first, I was pretty low-key about it. But eventually, it was blatant. As it was a super small company, I was the only one who knew how to do a lot of important tasks and operate some key internal systems. It was easy for me to tell my boss a project was taking a whole week to complete, that I actually finished in 10 minutes. Pretty soon, I was spending 80% of my day working on my own stuff in the office. I'd even take calls from my side business clients at my desk. The rest of the time, I was usually messing around on Reddit or something. Of course, we had systems in place to monitor network activity, but I was the person in charge of monitoring it. I give my 3-year-old son counterfeit fast food. I save my son's MC Donald's wrappers and Happy Meal boxes, then reuse them by serving him microwave chicken nuggets and oven French fries in them. I even throw in ketchup packets and a little toy he'd forgotten he had to help sell the lie. He loves it, and I'm not sorry. 8 years ago, I caused a UFO panic. One college summer break 8 years ago, my friends and I were bored. We remembered a demonstration from a high school science class of a solar balloon. This was just a really thin black plastic bag you'd fill with air, seal, and then set out in the sun. The sun would heat the air in the black bag, and the bag would become buoyant and float. We had the idea to find the cheapest, thinnest black plastic trash bags available and combine a bunch of them to make a huge balloon. We spent a few days driving around to Walmarts and dollar stores, trying different brands to find the thinnest possible plastic bag and thinnest tape, which would work the best. Finally, we took a number of them, cut off the bottom ends, and taped them together into a huge balloon, which we filled up with a leaf blower and then tied the end. After sitting out in the sun for a half hour or so, we had done it. We had to mess around with how the tape was sealing the bags to use as little of it as possible, as the weight of the tape added up and made the balloon harder to float. This was disappointing, but we made another one and got funny looks from cars driving by and were entertained for a bit. Shortly after that, this new balloon met its demise, smacking into a tree and getting popped. Oh, well, mission success. A few years later, I happened across this news article. The balloon that got away had apparently blown a town over and caused a big UFO panic. People were calling 911, the police, and local radio stations about it. Our boredom unintentionally created a UFO panic in central NJ. I moved out of the area, but when I get together with my friend, we always bring this up and have a good laugh.
Officially for that.
Yeah, you're like a sort of seventh kid I didn't know I had. Because you just come back and constantly irritate me. And rightly so with that grilled cheese. I'm not going to explain the issues, but I was in the arse end of nowhere. I was up against it at the time. And those little moments, would you believe, we do in our downtime. But I will admit it, live for the first time with you personally, it wasn't good enough.
Everybody, that's emotional growth. Can we give it up for Gordon on that?
I'm going to blame Justin Mandel. Justin Mandel was supposed to be our sort of amazing social media, hot producing talent. And man, he said, it looks good, it looks good. And then when those comments started coming, I'm saying, he said, yeah, dive for cover, hide quickly.
Hey man, sometimes the dish just gotta go out. Also, if I'm your seventh kid, I didn't receive a Christmas present this year, but that's totally fine. We got next year.
It's coming.
When I was younger, I saw a lady drop $100. I picked it up and used all of it on Yu-Gi-Oh cards right in front of her. Basically, she dropped the $100 bill in one of the aisles of this game store. I picked it up, and I remember wanting to give it back, but I was there to get Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I had recently lost all my good cards to my friend in a bet, so this was a miracle of sorts to make a solid comeback. so I kept it. I thought the woman had left the store, so I went to go purchase my cards. Right as I gave my money to the cashier, she walks up behind me, watching me buy my $100 worth of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. This isn't a normal thing to do. She said nothing though, and I left before she went to go buy her items, so I didn't have to see the look on her face when she realized. There is no doubt in my mind that once she realized she was $100 short, she would make the assumption it was the kid in front of her in line who spent $100 on cards. I just want to say, LAM a different